It is a Wednesday evening, and this is Pastor Matt with Memphis Metro Church. Thank you for giving us a moment or two to spend with you on this evening, and it's a privilege to be able to do so. I do want to thank so many of you that have been praying with us and helping us with our time of transition. We are anticipating serving the Taylor family a little bit later this week, and we've done some internal communication with that, and I'm hopeful that those of you that can be present will be able to be there with us and help us in that moment. I do want to also let you know that we are planning on a 10-day fast beginning on the first. What it is, let me double check here. 10-day fast that will conclude on Resurrection Sunday morning. And our hope is that you'll posture yourself to be a participant in that effort. We'll be sharing some parameters coming up on Sunday that give us intervals of 3 days to make our adjustments through the fast. So 3 days with certain dietary restrictions and 3 additional days with some added to it the last 3 days. So we're going to do it in 3-day intervals, in part because 3 days. 3 days. That's reminds us of the resurrection Sunday. And so I want to share with you just a little bit of insight from what we talked about on Sunday and encourage you as we negotiate, navigate the rest of this week. Realize many of you are very busy and want to just give you a few minutes to increase your faith. We have been in the series Authentic Faith, and I'm hopeful that it's been ministering to you, useful and helpful to you as you go throughout your journey. You're being able to see practical, applicable points that will help you to walk by faith and not by sight. Walk by faith and not by sight. Walk by faith and not by sight. So we call it authentic faith because the truth of the matter is there is an uncertainty sometimes when we walk in faith. And some of us think that we're doing things in faith, but it is artificial faith. So I want to give you an example here tonight of authentic faith that is demonstrated in the scripture, Matthew chapter 9, verses 27 through 31. And so here it reads from the New King James Version. It says, when Jesus departed from there, 2 blind men followed him, crying out and saying, Son of David, have mercy on us. And when he had come into the house, the blind men came to him. And Jesus said to them, do you believe that I am able to do this? They said to him, yes, Lord. Verse 29, touched their eyes, saying, according to your faith, let it be unto you. Verse 30 says, and their eyes were open. And Jesus sternly warned them, saying, see that no one knows it. Verse 31 concludes the passage and says, but when they had departed, they spread the news about him in all that country. Um, so the guiding principle that I have challenged for us to implement in this space is simply understanding that the nature of God is not linear. And so we think in linear terms, and sometimes we want to put things in a straight line and say that that's how it's supposed to happen. But when God is eternal, the nature of who he is eternal. We have to recognize that he's not operating according to our timeline. He's operating according to his eternal nature. So sometimes we want things done when we say they should be done, but God teaches us maturity through the vehicle of faith. We walk by faith and not by sight. And so this passage is we talked about this in the very beginning of the series. We talked about the different portals. And so what happens is that these blind men, they hear Jesus and they follow him. The difficulty is that we have blind men following. We have blind men following. And so there has to be a tremendous trust factor in their process. Not to be able to see where he's going, but still to follow. Not to understand everything he's doing, but still be able to follow. So I'm hoping that this resonates with some of us who are in our respective journeys. Sometimes we cannot see him, but the expectation that he has of us is still for us to follow. When things are unclear, when clarity is not present, we still have an obligation to follow. So these blind men, they make up their minds to follow despite being limited in their abilities. So they remove the barrier of the restriction that is upon them. And some of us like to get too analytical about what it is the next step should be. When the next step really should be to follow his voice. Follow his voice. Somebody put that in the chat for me and make that a point for tonight. When we're blind, when we can't see our way, what do? We follow his voice. And so the challenge is that I'll share with you. I recently had an appointment with the eye doctor, and they did something almost unspeakable, almost unspeakable. They gave me an injection in the eye. Gave me an injection in the eye. And so what that did was they warned me that the vision in that eye would be disrupted. Yeah, it would be disrupted because they call them floaters. You're going to see little spots that create blind spots in your vision. And so it was a difficult position to be in because I'd never experienced this before. And so my concern was that the blind spots would potentially create failure. That the blind spots would create mistakes, that the blind spots were going to cause me to fall. The blind spots were going to create catastrophe. The blind spots. And so the thing that I had to do was I was driving home with one eye in relatively good shape, the other eye not so much in good shape. The thing that I had to do was trust my instincts. Trust my instincts. I had a sense of where I was, but more importantly, I had a sense of where I was going. Can I say it again? I want you to get this. I had a sense of where I was, but more importantly, I had a sense of where I was going. And so when we follow his voice, it gives us the room to face our potential failures. Somebody type that in as our second point. We face our potential failures. We face our potential failures. We get nervous because something that we've been relying on, something that we have been used to having, is taken away from us. But these blind men did not have it. So they knew to trust their instincts to follow his voice. And secondly, you got to face your potential failures. The idea is that they may have gotten lost somewhere in the crowd. They could have missed out on where he was going. But they stuck to his voice. And so you and I have to stick to the voice of God to be able to follow him. And so the truth of the matter is, we probably will have some places of failure. But let me just tell you, failure is not final. Failure is not final. Failure is not final, especially when you have faith. Failure is not final when you make up your mind that you are going to believe and trust God. Faith is the evidence of things not seen. So what's the evidence that these men have here? They have the evidence of his voice. His voice is present. That's the evidence. And that's all they need. That's all they need. Can I tell you, in your situation, some of us want results. Some of us want outcomes. We need proof. But the proof is his voice. So failure is not final when you have faith. Failure is not final when you have faith. So here's what happens with the men. They yell out and they're giving Jesus this messianic address. And so it is it's an address of esteem. It's an address of recognition. It's one that identifies him in the lineage of David. It's one that promotes his ability as a leader, both governmental as well as military leader. And so we see that they recognize the power of Jesus. And so it comes from what they say about him. There's no doubt in their mind who he is. Thus, there is no doubt in their mind what he can do for them. Let me say it one more time. There's no doubt to these blind men who cannot see him, but they know who he is. Do you know who God is in the midst of your storm? Do you know who he is in the midst of your lack? Do you know who he is in the midst of your loss? Do you know who he is? Can you identify who he is? Can you say who he is in the midst of your condition? Do you have the audacity to declare who he is despite what you're going through? That's authenticity. That's authenticity. It's the real deal, right? So faith doesn't require for conditions to be good for us to move. That's artificial faith. Authentic faith says, even if things are not clear, even if things seem unstable, even if the storm is raging, even in the midst of difficulty and loss. And so their condition did not define who he is. And so what we do is that we say, well, our conditions are tumultuous. They're unsettling. They're disturbing. And we let that shake what we say about him. We let that interrupt what we believe about him. But I make the declaration to you and to your situation. He is the Son of David. He's the Most High God. He is El Elyon. He is Jesus the Christ, the Anointed One. He reigns supreme. And so as you are going through, shout it out who he is. Don't be afraid to acknowledge who he is. It may disturb some other people around you. But guess what? Your miracle ain't for them. It's for you. So they acknowledge. And so it gets the attention of Jesus. And so they make their way into the house. And so that scripture, I want to put that verse back up. And it says in verse 28, when he had come into the house, the blind men came to him. So here they are following, even though they're blind. But they make it to him. And watch what Jesus says. Do you believe that I am able to do this? Jesus was asking them to move their condition into the realm of possibility. Put it on the table as possible. Put it on the table as possible. Don't say it's not going to happen. Don't say it's not going to happen. Don't say it's not going to happen. Because then you are interrupting what's already been done on your behalf. Don't say it's not going to happen. And so Jesus asked them the question. You think I got capacity to do this? You think I'm able? Somebody just ought to type in, well able, mighty able, good and able. Yes, he's able. You have to put it on the table as possible. Yeah, it might be risky, but put it on the table as possible. It might be unlikely to the people that are watching, but put it on the table as possible. It may not have happened for so and so the way that it's going to happen for you. So put it on the table as possible. And so Jesus asked them, do you think this is possible? You think I'm able to do this? They moved it to the realm of possibility. Let me just tell you, you shouldn't follow if you don't think it's possible. You shouldn't follow. You shouldn't listen to that voice. You shouldn't get up and go to church. You shouldn't waste your time. You shouldn't believe. You shouldn't give unless you think that it's possible. And all things are possible to them that believe. You got to show up and you got to believe. You got to follow and you got to believe. Your belief is demonstrated in the following. Your belief is demonstrated in the showing up. And so it's now in the realm of possibility for them. Why? Because they came to him. What makes it possible is that they came to him. The blind man, both of them, what'd they do? They came to him. That makes it possible. Now, you ain't gonna get it done trying to do it on your own. But what makes it possible is when we come to him. When we realize who he is, when we realize he is who he says he is. And when we come to him, we got to follow him, and then we have to realize that he is who he is. He is who he said he is. The great I am. The Redeemer. The Lamb of God. All right, let me finish this up. And so it's moved into the realm of possibility, right? We see their authenticity because they follow while they're blind, right? We see their authenticity because they declare who he is. We see their authenticity because they came to him. And so Jesus said to them, do you believe I am able to do this? They said to him, yes, Lord. So the recognition of giving God a yes before it hits your timeline, before the full manifestation shows up. Do you have a yes? And look at the authoritative title that they give him. Master, Lord, Adonai. Right? Yes, Lord. I know we make it a phrase, but yes, Lord. They say, yes, Lord. And so look at what happens. Verse 29. It says, then he touched their eyes, right? This encounter is real. This encounter is manifest. He touched their eyes. It says, according to your faith, let it be to you. According to your faith, according to your faith, let it be to you. And so their faith showed up because their faith was working. Faith without works is dead. Their faith was in motion. Their faith was moving. Their faith was manifested. According to your faith, let it be to you. Look at what happens. Their eyes were open. I said this on Sunday, but I think you got to plan to show up if you really want the miracle. You got to plan to be there if you expect it to happen. That your miracle's in your movement. Your medicine's in your movement. Your manifestation is in your movement. Their eyes were open, and Jesus sternly warned them. Watch this word. He says, see that no one knows it. See that no one knows it. See that no. You're telling blind men who just got their vision. Don't tell nobody about this. So I'm always interested when Jesus gives these kinds of instructions, because it shows, first of all, their enthusiasm was overriding his instruction, because they went out and they spread the news. They couldn't keep it. Said I wasn't going to tell nobody, but I couldn't keep it to myself. Said I wasn't going to tell nobody, but I couldn't keep it down. So here's part of the dilemma. If they had not told anybody, just them showing up with vision and clarity would have been a sign that somebody had touched them, that a miracle had happened. And so they departed. They spread the news. They spread the news. We talked about the news on Sunday. I'm not going to talk about it again. But I want you to know that some of what makes news is that people hadn't heard about it. So you got to tell people about it. And when you share it, every time it happens, it's new. When it happens over and over again, when he keeps doing what he's been doing since Calvary, since before the foundations of the world, every time it happens, it's new. Why? Because old things have passed away. And behold, all things have become new. I gave you a little snippet of it. I did. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to plan to be there on this coming Sunday. This coming Sunday, we've got it's one of the pivotal messages for the year, right? If I were to rank, and I hadn't even preached it yet, if I were to rank the messages over this year, this would be one that you would need to be in attendance for. We're going to talk about faith and time. Faith and time. And I am absolutely certain that it will bless your life. So I want you to be in place. And so we'll be together at 11:22 Sunday morning, 258 North Merton Street in the heart of Midtown Memphis. And also tonight, if you rewatch this, we'll put some of our people will be sharing this link on their Facebook page. So we got hacked. Our Facebook page got hacked. My account got hacked. You don't see me on Facebook right now, but I'm re-emerging. It's coming back. I'm not in a rush, but we know we do have loyal followers, so we want to stay committed and connected to you. And so, but we'll have some people place this on their Facebook page, this link, so you can give tonight as well. And that's available for you. Portals and platforms that are available, Cash App, and PayPal. Those are available for you to be able to sow and give to this kingdom ministry. That's my time. I appreciate you watching, listening, connecting. This is PMAC, Memphis Metro Church Fellowship, Leadership, Worship. We are